This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow.
Hello and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. I'm Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser, and today I am an enthusiastic Bigger Bash boy.
Yay!
I'm so looking forward to going to Bigger Bash. We're going a little early this week, and yes, raring to go. If one rares anymore, I don't know if that's a thing.
That's raring, right?
Sure. Or undercooking meat, one of the two.
Yes. I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I'm also going to be the biggest bashist boy. I'm going to be scooting, and I'm going to have a sassy, different haircut, and it's going to be hot, and I'm going to be having all sorts of coffee beverages because I don't drink.
We're looking at painting flames on his scooter.
Yes.
Ooh, that'll make it go faster.
That's right.
Hi, I'm Michael Willer. I'm a chubby chaser, and I'm going to be a social butterfly Bigger Bash boy. I know, now know so many people that are going to be going.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and we're going to have a house guest staying with us, and we're going to have a little brunch get together. This is all these things that are going to be happening in addition to the event itself. It's very exciting times.
Yay.
Hi, my name is Don, and I'll be the Eeyore of this podcast.
No.
I'm coming off of 2 days of misery, but I'm feeling better, kind of. There's a
You're
cough.
just getting the sickness out of the way early.
Yeah, I'm really hoping it's not COVID and I still get to go. So I'm looking forward to the prospect of seeing you all soon.
Yes,
Don,
yes.
I
Pray
need you to stop being down with the sickness and get down with the thickness.
Oh,
It's good. It's good.
Were you working on that today?
He's brewing.
We got to get through this podcast.
Yeah, this is not our.
I'm going
normal
into a
recording
delirium.
We want to
right,
say thank you so much to all of our Patreons for helping us keep going.
Yeah.
We want to say thank you so much to Big Fig Mattresses for helping us stay on the air. We want to thank Bigger City for helping us out and keeping us out in front of the eyes that need to see us.
And the ears that need to hear us.
The ears that need to hear us. Words are hard.
Why, my goodness, grandmother.
Also, just support us. Buy a Big Fig and save $200.
Yes.
Use promo code BigFatGayPod to save 15% off a purchase of bearskin underwear, shorts, swimsuits. I don't know if you order it now, if it'll be in time for Bigger Bash, which is this weekend.
It's
September 6th through 9th?
Through the 8th. Technically through the 8th. Yeah.
September.
You can stay longer than that, though.
And come
it
earlier.
goes on in your hearts. And also, we are rearing down on our 200th episode.
100 official episodes,
Yes,
too.
official.
We've done more things than that. That's the full... And we had kind of a special idea in mind for this. It's like vaguely awkward to talk about because it's sort of like, look how great we are. But we wanted to reach out to listeners to see if you wanted to send us like voice notes that we could use on air during the episode to kind of do. It's almost like a what is it called in a TV show? It's like a flashback episode,
A clip show.
A clip show. It's kind of like doing a clip show, except instead of our voices, it would be your voices on the show, sharing what the podcast has meant to you. If you have any favorite particular memories or stories about things that have happened that were memorable.
Yeah, or ground you've taken in your own life when it comes to fat liberation or standing up for yourself.
Yeah, just what's different about you or your life from the point that you started listening to the point that we hit 200 episodes, which is insane. And we're 4.5 years in now? Like, how did that happen?
I was just realizing that we're about to have Bigger Bash, but next year is Bigger Vegas.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if we do something at Bigger Vegas, that'll be 5 years that we've been doing the podcast.
Oh my God.
Over 5
Time.
years.
Babies have been born.
What do you
and
mean
gone into
if we
young
do something
babyhood.
at Bigger Bash? We will
Bigger
do something
city.
at Bigger Bash. Bigger Bash is the center of this world.
Bigger Vegas. Yeah.
Bigger
Yeah.
Vegas.
I mean, Bigger Vegas, I think, was a very good venue to do like the live episode thing that we did last time around. This time around at Bigger Bash this weekend, we're going to be doing these little impromptu interviews, just one-on-one things as we talk to people. You know, if there's something like interesting or on your mind that you wanted to share, we'll just do like a little, maybe I have a little recorder. We might just do like a cell phone thing, and we'll do like a, kind of a version of a Bigger Bash wrap up and hearing the stories of the people who attended.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick note for people that are considering sending us like a voice message, you can record it on your phone. And if it ends up being too large to email to us at bigfatgaypod@gmail.com, you can also use a website called WeTransfer, WeTransfer. It is free, it is safe, and it'll send any files. It'll just give you a link and you can email us that link. Super easy. So anyway, enough of that crap.
Get your top hats, get your canes.
Oh no, I left mine at home.
You are
home.
And allow me to compliment Trevor on his selections for this week's pop culture.
Oh yeah.
This is one of my pet peeves and one of my favorite fun articles that we've had all year. I love this entire segment. Thank you, Trevor.
Yes.
So the first one is from the Daily Dot. And it's basically the shopper pointing out how Target keeps moving all the plus size stuff to the section in the far back of the store. Far back. Beyond electronics. Beyond
the clearance
lost
section.
children. Beyond where they're hiding the refugees. It's
yeah.
it's up in an attic behind a bookshelf. So it's bane of my existence.
And this is from the Daily Dot. It's an article by Rebecca Harding featuring TikToker Samira, who we talked about in episode 164, Health, Wealth, or Horniness. And in that episode, she was kind of calling out Delta on their seatbelts not being size inclusive and the kind of judginess of getting a seatbelt extender that she got. And here she is calling out Target for... as Don said,
hiding.
Hiding stuff. I used to work at Target, so this is in soft lines, which is the clothing section. In the haunted section of soft lines.
You have to go through a wardrobe and down a passageway, and eventually you'll be out on the other side where they sell plus size clothing. Yeah. And I love it in the video too. She's just because it happened to be there, she's walking by and she's like, and what is this? And there's an open bag of Doritos just on one of the racks. It's like, well,
you're in the plus size section. Oh, dear. Well, here's the other thing too. She brings out, and this, I actually think this is causal. She remarks on how all the clothing has gotten darker and drabber. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I actually think that's why they're hiding it, because it's so unattractive. They don't want to feature it. And it's sort of a chicken and egg thing. I think if it were amazing plus size clothing, they would be closer to the aisle. But I think it's just what's coming in the store. And then here's my other question. Why is this? Because it's not it's not like big and tall or plus size is foreign to Target. I wonder if it's because they're facing so much more competition from plus size stores or plus size boutiques. And so this is all they're getting.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So they have they're not trying as hard because they figure, if you're fat, you're going to go to that store anyway. We're not going to bother.
You have so much more generosity in your soul than I do. You do. You are like St. Dan. Having covered so many of these stories from stores like Abercrombie and Fitch that don't want fat people in there.
But that's, come on, they're Target. They're not Abercrombie and Fitch.
No, but they're not carrying the clothes. They're putting the clothes in a different area from where they put everyone else's
right,
clothes.
But I'm saying it's because there's such crappy clothing. They don't want to feature it.
I perhaps, but also, so I think it's interesting that at Target, they do have, I think their men's stuff goes to maybe 3X. I would say 3X. I don't think they go to 4X.
Never saw 4X.
It is, they do. So Target does not really have big and tall for men's. It is just mixed in, the men's, it's just men's. End of story. And
true.
I think it's interesting that Target, they do differentiate between, for the men's clothing, the regular stuff, I think they have the misses, and they have maternity and plus size, but it just, I am curious to why that's differentiated and why they just don't take the same approach that they do with the men's clothes, where they just have
mix the size in. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it might be because they might have some different brands specific to the target plus size women's clothing.
Right.
Maybe so.
Like if not every brand is going up to 1, 2, or 3X, then they don't necessarily need separate sections. I guess. I don't know. I've never worked in retail. I've done other things, but my favorite comment on this is on the TikTok that we were talking about. Do you see how they wanted us to get our steps in?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Very considerate, very demure.
I mean, I will say this, as far as the whole X's thing, X isn't a size, it's just an X. So that, like, I know that if I go,
it's a state of mind.
It's a state of mind. I know that, like, for me, if I go into a Target, I'm probably going to wear a medium. But if I go into a designer store, I will wear at least an extra large, if not a 2XL, because the X's don't mean anything. The sizes don't mean anything. They're really store specific.
Yeah.
3X at Target has never fit me.
And ever. 3X at Target, oh my God, 3X at Target would be like 10X at, Jonathan Barbados.
So there is one of the people who commented, it says they worked at a retail store, and this person said it's simply because it's not their top sales. They're going to put their top items up front. They're going to put their lesser selling items in the back.
Yes, but
I think there's something to that. But also the idea of separating things out, like Trevor was saying, that still feels kind of like a choice.
But we see this all the time. They claim they don't sell as much, but that's because they don't stock as much. And it's this stupid thing where, like, we only sold 10. Yeah, but you only had 10.
Yes, and they don't stock it. They hide it, and they do not have appealing options
and cover them in bags of chips. I mean, what are they doing over there? Like,
let's pivot to some more fun and flirty and thriving fashion stuff.
This is such a breath of fresh air compared to what was the movie we talked about, the animated film we talked about a month or two ago?
Wasn't it like Living Large or something?
Yeah,
no, it wasn't like that good.
No. So this is a movie that the trailers was posted 3 weeks ago, called Empire Waste, coming out of Blue Fox Entertainment, which is an indie film.
Just to make it clear to the listening audience, Empire Waste, WAIST, as in waste around your midsection.
Yes. And it looks so fun. It's about a plus size high school girl, and she's, dealing with all of the typical, like, bullying issues that you would expect. And then a new girl comes to class, and who's, fat and confident and happy with her body seemingly. And, like, they become besties. And it is just, even just in the trailer, it is just so much fun.
I got to tell you, I thought this was amazing. I cried at the trailer. That's how good it was.
The trailer was really good.
Yeah.
The trailer was really good.
And it's because it's the story of, it's not like there's no rescue. It's this downtrodden fat girl who happens to know how to sew, and this really fat and fabulous fat girl who is amazingly self-expressed. And so the confident fat girl says, like, wait, you can make me clothes? Oh, hell yes. And off they go. And it is amazing. It is amazing.
Yeah. And the clothing reaches out beyond that start point.
Yes.
And starts changing the world. So.
Yes. Yay.
It's just so nice to, like, have a nice, fat story that is just like, it's fun. And it's just like nice teen movies for fat teens that, like, just, I don't know. It's just like such a, like, this is so big, but I feel like it shouldn't have to be as big as, like, a milestone. Like, we need more of this.
Yeah. It feels very heartwarming. It's clearly an underdog story in a way that, I don't know. For me, it looks like a movie where art rescues, Well,
the other thing I really found interesting and loved about it is so often, if you have a fat person plot, it's usually a fat girl plot, and a fat girl plot usually implies having dating problems. And I don't know if that's in this movie, but I don't think it was in the trailer.
It's not in the trailer.
And I love that.
Yeah. It's not even about and so, like, the way they break down the characters are sort of 4, like, characters. You have Lenore. She's the main character. And then her new friend comes in and joins, and she gets to make clothes for her. And her new friend has all of the confidence that she kind of maybe wishes she had and just doesn't. Her dad is her biggest sort of cheerleader, played by Rainn Wilson. but her mother kind of represents the, like, I'm worried for my daughter, like self-conscious issues, and kind of like maybe projects it on her a little bit. So you have like these 4 different perspectives. And so I think it makes for a really richly drawn character study, but it just has so much, like if you watch the trailer, it just has so much life to it.
Yeah.
It looks fun. It looks real. It looks
joyful.
Authentic. It's also won a handful of awards at different international film festivals and is getting a release, I believe, in theaters September 27th. So
And
at the end of this month.
And if you're wondering, Empire Waist is a reference to a particular cut of dress, the empire where the waist occurs, and it's very fashionable for fat women.
Nice.
Fat Watch 2024.
We had a listener write in to confirm that was indeed the sound of an eagle, which I think may have been relegated to cutting room floor. So I'm sorry if this confuses some people.
Yes. So this is a very
This news
special
story made
Fat
me
Watch.
giggle so much.
This is not the typical Fat Watch, but there's a lot of discussion as like we warm up in Fat Watch that ends up in cutting room floor if you subscribe on Patreon. That does not make it to the episodes, and this is just like such
never.
It's so there was a story about an eagle, an injured Missouri bald eagle that wasn't actually really injured, but it was too fat to fly after gorging on raccoon.
So you got this eagle.
You got to be careful with those raccoon buffets.
I mean,
he couldn't take off. And
It's just Country Home Buffet.
He wasn't able to fly. And so Wildlife Rescue came in and like gave him some x-rays and thought that, they were going to discover like a broken wing or something.
Yeah,
right.
They thought he was injured. He was wandering around people's lawns for a day or so.
And so there's a quote, the x-rays show the outline of what we suspect is raccoon roadkill. It's got like the foot of a raccoon.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Just like stuck in its belly, like clearly bit off more than it could chew. Not that eagles chew, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. I mean, who hasn't been there? Let's be real.
It's like the cartoon of you eat the like whole turkey leg and it just like sticks out of your neck on both sides.
Oh God. Somebody's having a horrible vor fantasy about this.
I think it's just so interesting because it's like, so like, he's not fat. He's not too fat. He's full. There's a difference. He could be both. But it's just like so weirdly fat shaming because it's like, no, he's not. Like, it's like when someone's like, they, had a big meal, like, I feel so fat. It's like, no, you're not fat. You're full. Ate too much. It's okay.
I love that. I love that you're going to die on that hill, Trevor. That's great.
I mean, I have been this eagle, and where it's like, okay, I'm going to need some strategy before I get up. Everything's going to shift when I stand up. It's going to be, we have to think about how we're going to move. I think this is relevant to a lot of the big boys that are going to Vegas this week.
I think it's worth pointing out, especially for our international listeners, that this was indeed an American bald eagle that was too full to fly, which is just so perfectly symbolic of what Europeans think of us.
Yeah.
I had so much sympathy for this eagle, though. Imagine walking home. Like, I just put myself in his little talons. I did. I pictured myself walking home in Missouri. Someone's deciding I'm waddling a little too hard and having too much of a hard time, crank darting my ass, dragging me to a vet, and x-raying me to find out that, yes, in fact, I had been feasting on breakfast.
Well, but I mean, I am concerned. A raccoon's foot does not sound like something that would pass cleanly.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they said was its stomach was distended and what it had eaten was stuck.
Yeah.
So like there was a kind of injury. It was just...
He just needed a little sweet to balance out that raccoon.
I could go for a little sweet,
There's going to be a rotund eagle on a scooter at Bigger Bash. And that is our resident eagle for the podcast.
It's the eagle that won't fly, but will ride Scooty up into the air. Some weeks we just need a whole bunch of fluff.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. Speaking of fluff, no, don't think that works.
No, I think of I don't know. We're talking a lot about Bigger Bash, and a lot of people It could be their first time at an event. It could be their first time in Vegas. It's a week of firsts for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we were kind of in our, pre-show calls. The topic of younger, older dating came up again. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. But we thought it was a good time to kind of revisit it through the lens of like, maybe at this event, you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to pursue someone older. Maybe I'm going to pursue someone younger. Or maybe you're just like trying to take this first step in general.
Yeah, because, at an event, you're not hiding behind your screen where you can filter these people out. You're actually going to meet them.
Yeah.
And they may not be, the thing you filter for.
Watch out. They're right behind you.
They're right behind you. And I think that is part of the problem. I mean, the advantage and the disadvantage of online dating is you can filter for what you want. But I think one of the really great things about meeting people in person is that you see more of the whole complete person. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have age things. They like dating older. They like dating younger. They like whatever it is. And so I think it is appropriate to kind of talk about this in terms of an event where you're not in control of who comes up to you or who you see in the room.
Yeah, or you may not have that preference, but you may still have the prejudices that come along with just society lately. You're 55 and you want to date somebody 25 or hook up with somebody 25.
How dare you?
Like, how could you do that?
You're a monster. Or the thing of like, how dare you hit on me? You're at least 10 years, 20 years older, younger than my older.
But also we want to address the fact that like a lot of these issues are deeply internalized in some of us and difficult to overcome. I have said that multiple times. Like I'm wildly uncomfortable dating someone below a certain age range for no real good reason.
Yeah.
When I analyze it and I think about it, there's no real good reason for it for me, but it's this crap I've built up inside my own head.
I mean, there is a lot of discussion. I don't even think discussion. I think it's more discourse around age gaps in relationships. And I think there is definitely a power dynamic that comes with that I feel like is more like as things start to take more concrete form in what this relationship is. But I think there's really like so much of those discussions and discourse, especially like on social media, I feel like is not in a specific context.
Yeah, it's sort of abstract. The idea of dating somebody older.
I have an anecdote.
So please share your anecdote with the class.
And I brought snacks.
He even raised his hand.
I did. So I was at the gym today, and I was doing legs, and this guy comes up to me, and he says, "Oh, I know you from the other gym that closed down." And we sort of get into, doesn't matter how we got there, but we get into the fact that he often feels dissed as an older man, or dissed by younger men, or younger men sort of objectifying him as, "Oh, daddy, yeah, you're going to bang me. And you wouldn't mind paying my rent this month, would you?" Well, and I mean, I think that's certainly not all that there is on offer, but I think when that happens, it can smart. And I think what he was pointing to was this dynamic that is, I don't know if it's magnified in the gay community because I don't know the straight community all that well, but there is the thing of, oh, I would never date someone younger because they're XYZPQ. I would never date someone older because they're ABCDEFG. And my finding is, like I'll date someone no matter what age they are, but goddamn, they got to look good. My prejudices are strictly visual, and not numerically related. There's a huge age gap between me and Trevor. Mm-hmm. And it's funny how, I mean, you should speak on it too, obviously, but it's kind of like it doesn't come up.
Maybe there's just been a ton of shit talk behind my back, which could be very well be the case, but I don't think so. Like I think part of it is.
Oh, you mean from observers?
Yeah. Or just like in my friend group, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is people were not really aware of the extent of the age gap.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on like both sides, because I think there were friends of mine that thought Dan was younger and friends of Dan's that thought maybe I was older.
Yep.
but just, I think they just saw that we were so compatible that it wasn't a thing. And it's never been the thing of like, I've never had that like, oh, he's taking advantage of you or like manipulating you or like, I mean, at the term kind of grooming has always been a thing, but there was never that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't as in kind of the conversation of the world when we started dating. So it's been odd because it was just such not an issue.
Like conspicuously absent. Yeah.
Have you guys ever encountered a sort of age-related issue that you had to overcome in some way?
Not seriously.
Yeah. I think just like adjusting to differences in where we both were as we were settling into our relationship. Just like there are just things about life that are different when you are, in your 20s versus when you're in your 50s.
Yeah.
I think part of that is that you guys were regarding each other as the other, like a person, just like you are who you are. And versus like, I think if you're in a hookup or like early stages of dating, I think there's a lot of projecting that people do and kind of like you see somebody and you kind of have an image of who they must be or how they must be. And like, it's a lot of times idealized. And then when you start dealing with the reality of, oh, this person I'm dating has these specific needs, maybe they're age related, maybe they're not, but this is who they are. And then, can you make the jump from whatever your preconceived notion of them was into this is who they actually are. And if I want to be a real person in a real relationship, then it's important to like identify that and be able to accommodate that.
I think so. And it's what you're saying is that it's so much more, the differences are so much more about personality than some sort of statistic about age or weight or whatever. The other thing too, that I think is interesting, and I don't know if this is exportable, like you should do this too, is that, very often people are really locked into a time. And you can feel it. You can feel maybe your grandparents, like, wow, they really feel like they're from the 50s. Like it's just
like an era.
Like an era. They're locked into a time period. And I think because I grew up really super weird, I don't have that. I'm just sort of always been not fitting in. Like I am that guy, I am that guy who comes from another planet who's like, the 40s were interesting. And so are the 70s. And, I'm not I don't feel allied or tied to it. And on Trevor's side of the equation, he has such a vast knowledge of cultural touchstones because of, 3 decades of The Simpsons, that he knows any possible cultural reference I could come up with. And I'm like, how do you know that?
It's not a special garbage brain. I think there was
an interesting bridge. I find it often a common gap that is difficult to overcome is a cultural gap.
Yeah.
Like most of the younger guys I date, below say 35 or below 30, don't know most of my TV touchstones or my movie touchstones. And so much of my cultural background depends on that,
I because I definitely do, when you're a certain age, it's very easy to date younger people because everybody's younger. Like if you're 20, you only date people who are older than you because everybody's older than you.
Right.
It's true. So I find that one of the, when I'm with someone that's, let's say, in their 20s, especially their early 20s, part of the reason they're even with me at all is because they're interested in someone of my age, education, background, whatever. Like they wouldn't be with me if they weren't. They wouldn't be in a dinner date with me if they weren't. So it's almost like if they don't understand a reference, well, why did I can say, I can either adapt it, or if they make a reference, and remember, I'm sort of unplugged from all pop culture. I go like, I have no idea what that means. Please explain. And so it kind of becomes this mutually educational process. I mean, quite frankly, the only reason I know how to text is because in the 90s, I dated a lot of younger guys.
Yeah. One, I would say, so like, if you are wanting to go to this new frontier, if it's like you're 20s and you're like, I want to start, like, I want to actually try pursuing older guys. Or if you're an older guy and like, okay, so I'm daddy now, how do I do this? Like, you need to approach this with interest and willingness to kind of step outside of your cultural comfort zone
and who you think you are.
Yeah.
And don't make assumptions. This is advice to those younger guys. Don't make assumptions that the cute nickname Poppy or Daddy is going to be something that endears you to the older guy. I
gotta say, I have met with a lot of guys who are like, is it okay if I call you Daddy? Like they actually ask permission, which I think is wonderful.
Fine.
Which is
you
wonderful.
ask permission, you just take that, right?
No, I got to tell you, I went through a lot with that because I initially hated it, not because it made me feel old, but because the last thing I would want to do is have sex with my daddy. That sounds awful. That sounds awful.
But it sound incestuous.
Yeah, well, and plus my dad, ick. So, but I realized that that's not where it was coming from, and so I kind of got into, oh, that's what you mean by it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so then I was able to like, okay, I can kind of like this now.
I have never had anyone ask permission if they want to call me Daddy.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's, I'm not Daddy, I'm baby.
I feel like that's just so obviously not your image that like to make that leap is weird.
They're putting it on you because it's their fantasy and they don't care who you are.
It's what they need in the minute.
No, it's like when you get in bed with someone and they just take this paint roller and paint it right on top of you. And like, that's what I'm having sex with. I'm like, no, that's not me.
Oh boy.
And I think there's a lot of, because I mean, I had guys older than me when I was like in my 20s call me Daddy. I think there's a lot of guys where they are like, I am kind of like an optical illusion of the, like where it's the hag or the young woman or like the duck or the fish, where like I am between a couple of different archetypes.
You are
like in the fat world, where it's like, I can be a bear if someone wants me to be a bear, if that's their thing. I can be the cherub. I can be like the, femme chub, just depending on like the frame that they see me through, which is a blessing and a curse. Cause there's a lot of things I'm like, that's not really like what I do, but I'm attracted to you. So let's try to figure out how to do this.
But I'm willing to overlook the mischaracterization.
Yes.
I mean, I think, and I think this is true for people in general as they get older. As you get older, you have less tolerance for what you do not love. When you're 20, you will fuck around and try anything. It's like if you're, even movies, right? When you're 15, you will see any movie just because your friends are seeing it. When you're 25, you will see almost any movie that your friends want. If your friends want to see it, you could be dragged along. By the time you're 45, it's like, oh, hell no, I'm not seeing that. Why would you want to see that? I'm not going. Why? Because I'm not going to be thrilled. And because at a certain stage of life, you're like, I'm not going to be thrilled by that. I'm not really up for that. And I think that definitely applies to things in bed. That, there's things like, well, let's try it. I'm like, no, let's try something we can both agree on instead.
I mean, I will say, though, that I think you can be rewarded for having an open mind and interest, because I have found there are things that I have not really been interested in or had any interest in, but with a specific person, like it just kind of clicks and it's like that was really fun. And like, I'm glad I did that. But like, it's with that specific, like there's something about that specific dynamic with that person where that thing works.
And I think that is so perfectly 30s to be in your 30s.
I mean, but I feel like it was in my 20s too. Like, I feel like it's just, I think and maybe it's just like a personality type thing where you can have, I mean, I don't know how to refine it more than like a specific dynamic where.
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm just saying that by the time you get into your 50s, you have experienced that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, I feel like one way to kind of tackle a scenario like that, where you're like, I find this person really attractive. Maybe it's against my traditional type, or they're into something I'm not aware of or don't really know anything about, but I'm like, maybe I'll try. I think a good way to look at it is like, this is not a commitment to a lifetime of the same experience.
Yes.
Like you can just have a night with a person and who knows, like maybe it'll be great because you have such good chemistry, which I feel like I have let's see if this still applies anymore. I came up with this like 100 years ago and I'm curious. So like I have a kind of percentage breakdown of what like kind of characteristics work for me. So like, I think it was like 40% appearance, like 40% chemistry, and then 20% like full blown, I don't know, like it factor, like whatever that sort of ambiguous thing is. And so like, you can kind of like weigh out, like, I don't know, I feel like that more or less still applies. Like you can get over a lot of things if the other things line up.
Towards Dan's comment, I think that 20% gets smaller as you get older, because not because it goes away, but because you identify it, right? Like you start to pluck that out. But I want to expand on something that Dan said, where I don't think everybody hits the same needs at the same age groups.
Oh,
right?
All right.
Where I think that, like, especially with gay guys, when I was, I haven't used the term in a while, but have you guys heard of the term gay age? Does that come up for any of you?
Yeah.
Back in my day, we referred to that as like, how many years has been since you've come out and been on the dating scene? And like what the theory was that someone who had come out at 35 would be roughly the same dating age, gay age, as someone who came out at 25, 5 years later, right? They're all at 5 years after the fact. Everyone's the same, no matter what age they came out, right? I don't necessarily believe that's entirely true, but I don't think it can be avoided. Like,
well, I think there are other factors. I think there are other factors at stake, but I don't think you're wrong. And I would say this, something I say in my book, and I'll tell you where I got it, is that chubs and chasers tend to be 5 to 10 years behind the curve. And you know who said that? The person who has a lot of experience with a lot of people who are in the chub chaser community. The person who said that first to me was Edward, who is the founder of Bigger City. And what does he do all day? He looks at people's profiles and what they're doing and how they're hooking up, how they're not hooking up. So he was really a genius in identifying that. And it's true. And it's because if you're a chub or a chaser, there are other factors besides just coming out, and coming out is certainly one of them. But there's the whole anti-fat bias that you got to get through.
So let's take that a second. And when we're talking about Bigger Bash, it may be good for some of us, hello, me, Don, to try and overcome some of your expectations that the young hot chaser out there may have. I assume they're going to be more sort of sexually aggressive than I am because they have more experience, because they've been around and more intensively gone after than I've been, right? I'm sure that they have assumptions about me being older. I should be in control, and that I should know how to come after them. But we're all over the map on all of these things.
Yeah, we really are. And you got to know, the young, hot, studly chaser is very often a fucking mess. He's a really super hot mess. And he doesn't know how to play the game any better than you do.
And he just does it differently. And he gets more cred. He gets more positive assumptions about him because of how he looks and moves through the world. And that's not his fault.
But what it does do is it sort of puts a lot of guys in the driver's seat when they don't know how to be in the driver's seat. One of the biggest things that happens to chasers is the chub is like, well, obviously you're more sexually experienced because you're hot, so you tell me what to do. And the poor chaser is like,
that was me in my 20s.
I've had a younger chaser ask me out on a date and then expect me to organize the date.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But not when you consider that he's a younger chaser. He wants to please you. And a really great way to do that is to let you take the lead, because then you will be pleased. I almost always do that with younger chubs, because that's kind of why they're into me.
There's a lot of dynamics that play into that. And I think not everyone falls into these two categories,
no, of course.
There's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of like dom sub behavior that kind of filters in, whether people even realize it or not.
Yes.
That just filters into the dynamics of talking before you've even mentioned those terms. And a lot of people act in a way that is consistent with one of those terms, even if it hasn't been discussed. And that feels like a very deferential, potentially like more passive subby behavior of like, well, let's do what you want to do. Like, because you'll like it, and because I'll like it because you like it. Like that's that follows to me.
Yeah. They can't fuck it up if you chose it.
Right.
Don, to your point about the younger chasers, like, so I know a chaser who is 30, but this is Bigger Bash is going to be his first event.
Yep.
And
I want you to just put a pin in that. He's 30 and it's going to be his first event of this kind. That is not common for gay men in their 30s. outside the Chubby Chaser universe.
I am so excited for him, but I also know like it is going to be so overwhelming. And I said, this is a good event because it is, Bigger City does great events, but it is a smaller version of Bigger Vegas. So it's like, it's going to be overwhelming, but less, it's smaller than Bigger Vegas, which is longer and just.
I feel like the only criticism we had about Bigger Vegas was that it was a lot. There was a lot coming at you. So it is. I agree with you. I think that's a really good first choice.
Look, any event that gets beyond 100 people, which is a really small event, quite frankly, any event that gets beyond 100 people, and because, it has a limited time, and if you're there to, if you're there to get laid, if you're there to find a husband, if you're there to, and people have these agendas that crop up and they have to fight down their agenda. Honestly, the most accurate thing I can say about these events, and this is going to sound terrible, is that it's like dating on a reality show. Because all the regular dating behavior that you may know from your real life, which, by the way, may be very little, doesn't apply at these events like they would not apply on a reality show. And I'll tell you why. Because here's a classic example for it from a chaser's perspective. A chaser might spend a month or two texting or emailing or whatever it is, chatting back and forth with a chub, and then they finally get a date and they meet up. And this process could take weeks, if not months. And now, and by the way, that was one guy, and maybe he's got another guy that he talks to once a month. Now, that same guy, if he goes to an event, is in an environment, he's got 5 days. There are 100 attractive chubs. He is blown away by 10 of them. He can't possibly date all 10 of them. Yeah. He's got to figure out what he wants. And usually what sets in is absolute paralysis. The result of that paralysis is he pisses off 10 beautiful chubs because he can't make a decision. Because he doesn't have the skills for it. He has never been in an environment where this skill set was required. And it can be very daunting for both chubs. From the chub point of view, it's the thing about like, oh my God, I'm a sex object. I've never been a sex object in my life. What the fuck is happening? And then you have a judgment about whether it's good or bad to be a sex object. Or I should be, I'm a sex object, but nobody wants to date me or bed me. And so the only advice I have for stuff like this is you gotta go with the flow. Ride the horse in the direction it's going. And don't try to engineer this.
That just told me that we should sponsor a confessional for Bigger Vegas.
Aren't we kind of already doing that?
Yeah, I meant really. like a booth, like, we're going to have our man on the street.
You mean the reality show confessional?
Yeah, but
I see.
I see what you mean. Like this cutaway to the booth. Yeah. And I don't mean that to sound bad or intimidating. I just mean to say that because the world treats chubs and chasers differently, and in some cases horribly differently. When you put us all together and we're in this sort of, free and open space, people don't know how to deal with that because it's not their history.
Yeah, because it's the first time you get to really feel normal in a way that's so not normal because it's just so condensed and amped up and just like, I don't know, in a lot of ways for like me, because I'm not a bar person. And I think it's probably I would say like maybe an even mix of people who are like, oh, well, like I just go, like, it's like a bar night, but bigger. It can just be like, so
I don't know.
I don't know. Because I am such not a bar person. It can be a lot of like overwhelm for me just because like in terms of social battery and just like stimuli. And
and the thing you have to realize is you need to take care of yourself. And the lovely thing is when it gets to that point, you simply withdraw. You go to wherever you need to withdraw and you come back when you're ready. Do not OD on it or you'll stay away for a day or a year or a decade.
I don't know. Or at least have a scooter so that your, extraction period only turns into 1 hour of like trying to get back to your room and just
because baby, that's what Michael was describing earlier. Because fucking everybody now, because we've been to so many events over so many years, and everybody knows you. Everybody wants to say hello. Everybody wants to say goodbye. Everybody, and that's a lovely problem to have, and that's why you go back. That's why you go back multiple years.
So I don't know. I am always curious to hear from people who are on either end of the age spectrum navigating this. Because it's such a broad topic and there are so many specific hangups that you can hit or hiccups or whatever. So if you are in this journey, if you are starting this journey, if you want more advice on how to start, because we kind of went all over the place here.
We took the shotgun approach.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know. Are you younger, seeking older and not sure how to start? Are you older and apprehensive about how to even begin to, date a Gen Z chub or chaser? Hit us up, bigfatgaypod@gmail.com.
Or even better yet, record us a voicemail and send that to us.
Yes.
What if you're 34 and finding yourself fitting in more and more and more with that kind of middle-aged older type, but you're not actually there yet?
That
just means you're advanced for your age.
Yes. You're advanced. That's right. You're in the gifted and talented program.
Come on, Grandma. Let's get you back to Facebook, Grandma.
Do we have a tip for the day?
Write us. Tell us.
Write us or send us a voicemail.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as our bit today, I figured I would prepare for our episode on cross-generational dating by going out and seeing what had been written on the subject by some of our most established women's magazines over the years. And Cosmopolitan and Glamour magazine turns out to have put out many articles explaining some of the best ways to get along with your older male companion.
Don, Cosmo and Glamour are like my Bible.
I thought they would be. You definitely strike me as a Cosmo girl.
I'm a Cosmo girl.
Yeah.
So I have gathered up some of their advice here, and I want to see if you guys can pick out the real advice from the magazine from some of the decoys that I've put out here. All right?
Oh, boy.
So which of the following are the real do's and don't tips from Glamour magazine on dating older men?
Okay.
All right. 1, encourage him to be open by seeking out his advice. Not only will this make him feel more confident in sharing himself with you, it will also give you some super useful insight you might never have considered. 2, learn from your man who's been there before you. Jay plays the "when I was your age" card quite a bit, and I'd get annoyed if he wasn't right in offering me such good advice. Or 3, listen to his advice, but don't put him on a pedestal. His experience isn't the same as yours. Or 4, be careful about taking his advice about things. He's lived a full life, but the world has changed quickly. Don't lose your more modern perspective.
And it's which one of these is
Which
correct?
one of those is the real one? And don't forget, I am insidious.
What was I'm not sure I understood the second one.
The second one, learn from your man who's been there before you. Jay plays the "when I was your age" card quite a bit, and I'd get annoyed if he wasn't right in offering me such good advice.
I feel like that's something from Modern Family.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like the last one, which is, as an older guy who's definitely given a lot of advice, you got to make sure it's asked for.
Yeah.
Like people, you can't coach somebody who doesn't want to be coached. That's
I also think the last one might be it.
Well, I don't have any better ideas, so I'll go with the last one too and just keep us all even.
All right. Well, unfortunately, Modern Family was leading us that way.
No.
Learn from the man who's been there before you.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Really?
Remember, women's magazines. All right. Which is the real advice from Glamour? 1.
Can we get dates for when these were done? Because I feel like that also makes a big difference.
No. Which is the real advice from Glamour? 1, don't point out small sexist or social slip-ups if they're small. If he's from another generation, you need to have some understanding. 2, don't point out how cute his gray chest hair is. 3, don't give age-related birthday joke presents like canes or Depends underwear.
Oh,
Please
boy.
Whoa.
4, don't bring up his parents or children until he does. This can be a touchy subject for some older guys.
Is this going to be like a 5 all of the above scenario?
Nope. Okay. One of these is real.
They're all so equally weird and uncomfortable.
I think the gray chest hair one.
Yeah, but I think it's obvious.
think so?
I think that's obvious. I think the cleverer thing that might make it into a magazine is don't bring up wives and children before he does.
Yeah, I think that one too, because like if you're, younger than his daughter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I think that one.
1 for chest hair and 2 for don't bringing up parents or children.
Yeah.
All right. The correct answer is, in fact, don't point out how cute his first gray chest hair is.
Oh my God.
Really?
That's the advice from Glamour.
I mean, it's true, but that really somebody had to say that?
Last one out. Which is the real advice from Glamour? 1, don't be afraid of sharing the things you're passionate about. He may see Harry Potter as childish, but if it's important to you, he needs to respect that. 2, don't expect him to share your YA passion. Hunger Games, Harry Potter, and Percy Jackson may be amazing, but can be harder for older generations to connect to.
Oh, fuck that.
3, don't shy away from trying out some of the movies and shows he loves. I would never have watched I Love Lucy, The Sopranos, or Battlestar Galactica without my guy. Or 4, don't use childhood pop culture references that he will never get. For your date with an older gent, as cool as it is, not everyone needs to know that you were part of the NSYNC fan club.
How old is this?
I think the second one, don't expect him to like YA.
I think number 1, which was number 1 again. I remember liking it.
Don't be afraid of sharing the things you're passionate about. He may see Harry Potter as childish, but if it's important to you, he needs to respect that.
I mean, I agree with that. Like, you need to share who you are and what you like, and they either need to get on board or at least shut up about not liking it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I that's the one I'm on board with too.
I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's the one that is the credited response, but I agree with it.
And the true advice from Glamour magazine is don't use childhood pop culture references that he will never get.
Yeah.
For your date with an older gent, as cool as it is, he doesn't care that you were part of the NSYNC fan club.
Yeah.
Now, based on the advice
that happens
here,
to me. Yeah.
based on the advice here, I'm going to add 1 5th question. Who gives better advice, Don or Glamour magazine? Not one of you picked one of the Glamour choices. I think one of you might have picked one.
I think, we got the
chest
first
hair
question.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the chest hair one. One of you guessed the chest hair one.
Yeah, but only, like I said, I didn't pick chest hair because I'm like, get this. I thought like, oh God, who needs to say that? But then upon reflection, I'm thinking like, if you're a chaser, don't compliment them on their stretch marks. And you need to tell them that.
Or the chaser thing I've seen where it's like, wow, you're so much fatter than you were last time.
Yeah, don't do that.
I saw you. It's like,
I mean, do it with a gainer. That's great if you're with a gainer. But if you're with a garden variety chub, not a great opener.
All right. So,
I mean, I think Don gives better,
so Don gives better.
We've established that.
Yes.
So, dear listener, if you believe that I have missed my calling as an advice columnist and you know where I should go to get a new job, where could they tell us that, Trevor?
We're on Twitter and Instagram as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Leave us 5 stars there or a review, maybe on your favorite podcast platform too. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BigFatGayPod. And see the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod. Baby, Big Fat Gay Pod.
Perfect. Flawless dismount.
Baby. Maybe you're at Bigger Bash and the episode's winding up, but you hear a familiar voice, and it's because it's us, because we're at Bigger Bash too. So,
hi.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys at Bigger Bash.